today on Dr. Phil. He has 5 online girlfriends.
None of them exist.
Is he being scammed?
You sent her about $5,000,
Related to the gold, yeah.
but you never got the gold.
No, he got arrested before that happened.
So how did an intelligent man with a PhD fall for all of these scammers?
What you need to look for to keep yourself safe.
Date of birth, 12/8/79. Over here, the birth date is 12/8/87.
I recognize it right away.
Bob, is this the same one that you had checked out by someone who was in Ghana?
Let's ask Dr. Phil. He asked the questions, not you.
If there is a 25-year-old multimillionaire gorgeous girl out there, she ain't looking for you. You understand what I'm telling you?
Well, I understand that
You're being used. The woman that you think is April Jean is actually this woman. Today's going to be a changing day in your life. You've never had anybody working harder to bring you to the threshold of change than right now. Okay, yesterday I sat down with Robert and his ex-wife. Jeremy, who claimed her ex-husband lost their entire $1 million retirement savings on day trading and bad investments. And he didn't stop there. She says Robert also spent their hard-earned money on online scammers who he believes are women interested in dating him. Now, Robert says he's well aware that there are scammers online, so he wanted me to verify that the women he referred to as his top 5 were the real deal.
When we retired, he began to get involved in the day trading.
I had to tell her we lost everything.
Our $1 million nest egg was gone. After 40 years of marriage, I filed for divorce.
At this point, there's approximately a half dozen women that I have a strong interest in. This is Sophie Preston. Sophie lives in the Modesto area. Sophie is mute. I've already said Sophie, about $10,000. This is April. April and I are engaged. She's in the country of Tonga. I think in her particular case, I don't think she is scamming me. This lady is Jane. Her and her daughter are now being held in captivity. The house she's lived in is a fortress that has security guards with guns and attack dogs. I said, I'm going to the FBI. The FBI agent said he would pass it on. That's the last I heard.
For a man who's supposed to be smart, he is dumber than most.
In a perfect world, you would like somebody that's young, attractive, interesting, funny, exotic, and rich.
Yes.
Robert says he is currently focused on 5 women. However, one woman in particular, he says, he's ready to marry as soon as possible. That's Sophie.
So,
and her father's leaving her $5.5 million.
She doesn't have access to it. It involves a Nigerian company. That tells you something right there, right?
Tells me a lot. What do you think about that?
It's pretty incredible.
It's kind of like a soap opera, really. Mom's dead, dad's dead,
It is.
brother got the house, she's mute.
And
I
I can
expect
tell you-
any minute for her to get amnesia. Well, we did some sleuthing and we found out some interesting things about Sophie Preston. You did look at her passport.
Yes.
And this is clearly fraudulent. The lines down here are red,
It's
real
clearly
ones.
fraudulent.
This is her driver's license.
Yeah.
Okay, you know this is fraudulent
Absolutely.
too. You have a fraudulent passport and a fraudulent driver's license. Show me a document that's not fraudulent.
Well, I don't have it on me. Do you understand that your assistants were asking for information at a rapid-fire rate in a very short period of time?
You were busy being belligerent is the reason you were having trouble getting all your documents
Is that a fact?
together. Yes, that is a fact.
Wait a minute, you're talking over me. Stop talking over me. If you want the answer, you're gonna have to let me talk, okay? We don't have a show then, because I'm not gonna say their actual first name. That's an example of belligerent?
Do you want to be right or do you want to be happy?
I want to be right, and I want this show to be right.
You know, I decided to let it pass you being rude and belligerent and abusive with my staff, but if you want to take that to task, we can, because you are a loudmouth bully.
Did you have the other side of that conversation? You know, in a phone conversation.
Yeah, I got the other side of that
there's two sides.
conversation. You want to bully them, bully me, Buster. You want the information or do you not?
I do.
okay? We sent a staffer to the town where Sophie Preston says she and her attorney, who is managing her inheritance, Bernard T. Williams, live.
Can you guys tell me if you've seen this before me?
I have never seen that woman here.
Do you recognize this woman?
No.
Robert is still talking to 4 other women, April Jean, Jane Hodges among them. Robert may be thrilled to know we found out about April Jean. This is what Robert knows about April Jean. Date of birth, 9/28/89 in Colorado. Age 30, currently working in Tonga as a freelance architect. Hired by Bond Construction in Houston, Texas. Moved to Tonga for contract work on November 10th, 2019. Her mother's from Mexico, deceased 17 years ago. Father from California, deceased. Former boyfriend, deceased 2 years ago. Permanent home is with her grandmother in Lubbock, Texas. Grandmother recently died, however, just 3 months ago. She attended the University of Colorado, or Colorado State, between 2006 and 2010. They've been talking via email and text for a couple of months. Robert exchanged $3,000 in gift cards for her. Robert claims they met concerning a lost package. It was just kind of happenstance, right?
That's what it appeared, yeah.
Yeah. And here's what April Jean looks like. Very attractive.
Sure.
Yeah. We sent a staffer to Texas, put somebody on an airplane, flew them to Lubbock to do some digging. Here's what we found out.
The Dr. Phil Show has been told by Robert that April Jean lived in this house with her grandmother before she had to leave for a freelance architecture job in Tonga. Let's take a look. Hey, how's it going, man? I'm Max. I'm with the Dr. Phil Show. I'm wondering if you know this woman, April. You've never met her before in your life?
I've never seen her in my life.
She claims her grandmother used to live here until she passed away 3 months ago. Have you lived here?
I haven't been here for about maybe 3 years.
You've been here for 3 years?
Yeah.
So you've never seen this woman?
No, I've never seen her.
Okay. Thank you so much.
All right.
How's it going? I'm Max. I work with the Dr. Phil Show. How long have you lived here?
37 years.
37 years. Have you ever seen that woman?
No.
Her name is April Jean. You've never seen her before in 30 years you've lived here? Okay.
Mainly been black people to me.
That's it?
Yeah.
Good to know. Thank you so much. Well, Dr. Phil, it's safe to say the people that live at the address that Robert gave your team have never met April Jean. They say she has never lived there.
Here's what we found out about April Jean. There's no April Jean with a date of birth 9/28/89 that lived in Texas, Colorado, or anywhere in the United States of America. There is no April Jean that attended the University of Colorado or Colorado State between 2006 and 2010. There's no April Jean that worked at Vaughn Construction Company in Houston, Texas. We talked to Vaughn Construction Company.
Good.
She doesn't work there, has never worked there,
Okay.
never heard of her.
Okay.
It just simply doesn't exist.
I get you. I'm glad you couldn't cover this.
You get,
I got
she
it.
doesn't exist.
None of them exist because it's the same pattern over and over and over and over again.
Did you make it through all 6 names? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have time on here.
No, but we've gone one better. We found April Jean. And we're going to hear from her after the break.
Every one of those is ambiguous, and I'll tell you why. Because the information is coming from a guy who actually is not a guy that's going to tell the truth about who he is.
You're not dating him, you're dating her. And later, and you sent her about $5,000, but you never got the gold.
No,
Now, this-
she got arrested before that happened.
Bob, is this the same one that you had checked out by someone who was in Ghana?
Let's ask Dr. Phil. He asked the questions, not you.
Robert says he's looking forward to meeting April Jean. Well, we looked everywhere for April and discovered she was indeed outside of the U.S., but not in Tonga. Take a look.
Hola, hola, Robert. Siento mucho decirte que mi nombre no es Abril. Mi nombre es Erika Vega. Soy de Nogales, Sonora, México. Vivo en México. Soy influencer en redes sociales y siento mucho, mucho lo que te está pasando. Todos los días recibo mensajes de diferentes personas en donde se hacen pasar por mí, en donde estafan a gente con dinero, en donde incluso secuestran. Y de verdad es muy triste esta situación. Doy gracias a este espacio para poder aclararlo y para poder decir no se dejen engañar. Chequen bien a quién siguen, chequen bien a quién agregan, chequen bien en quién confían, sobre todo en redes sociales. Gracias, saludos.
The woman that you think is April Jean is actually this woman who lives in Mexico and has had her identity. So they stole her picture. She's not involved in this in any way whatsoever. She is a victim of identity theft. Robert has also been talking to another woman named Jane Hodges. Here's what we know about Jane. Date of birth, unknown, 28 to 35 years old, also known as Jane Stamper, born in Barcelona, Spain, being held hostage in an unknown location in Texas with her grandmother and daughter Maggie. She's been being held hostage there for 2 years by her Uncle Danny. Now, Uncle Danny's real name is Gonzales Ronald Hodges. Uncle Danny allegedly owns property in Levittown, New York, and Virginia Beach, Virginia. He talked to Robert online via text message for 2 years. Robert sent her $500. So here are some text message exchanges between Robert and Jane Hodges. Jane, I know necessary steps to take to get hold of money in 1 week. Once I'm out and have all the documents, that's why I want us doing this secretly so he doesn't do anything to the documents.
I'll explain that.
Robert, you think you'll be able to get a hold of anything if you don't have the documents? Jane, if I get out of here unaware of him, bursted, I can get my documents as soon as possible because he wouldn't have time to do anything to it. If I get out with no documents, I can't get any money. Only if I have means to locate them in person for.
According to her, Uncle Danny is holding her probate documents and her passport, which he took in exchange for loaning her $10,000 for surgery for her daughter.
Life-saving surgery, I suspect.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, since Robert explained that Jane Hodges was being held captive by her Uncle Danny, we sent a staff member to where Uncle Danny allegedly owns property in Virginia Beach. Take a look.
Okay, then I'm going to try the neighbors.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
My name is Jim. I'm with the Dr. Phil Show. Have you ever seen her before?
No, but goodness, she doesn't look very old.
Her name is Jane Hodges, or so she says.
Yeah, I don't know who she is, and I have not seen her in the neighborhood.
Thank you so much for
You're
talking with me.
welcome.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, good. Have you ever seen her before in this neighborhood?
I don't believe so. She would probably stand out.
And the name that she's telling him is Jane Hodges. Does that mean anything?
Not at all.
Do you know this woman, Jane Hodges?
No, I've never seen her before. I'm 71. I've lived here since I was 5. I've never seen her. I would remember her for sure. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Well, Dr. Phil, it's safe to say that the people who live at the address that Robert gave your team do not know Jane Hodges or Danny Hodges. They say that nobody by those names has ever lived at that address.
There is no Jane Hodges with that name in the age range at all anywhere in Texas. There's no Jane Stamper in the entire United States with that name in any kind of age range in Texas or U.S. No Gonzales Ronald Hodges in the entire United States. Virginia Beach property is not owned by Gonzales Ronald Hodges.
Right.
Doesn't exist.
Now, let me add something about this. By his own admission, he's a very secretive guy, and I doubt that he actually gave me his correct name. But every one of those is ambiguous, and I'll tell you why. Because the information is coming from a guy who actually is not a guy that's going to tell the truth about who he is. He doesn't want to be found.
You're not dating him, you're dating her.
No, but it's part of the credibility, and that's why you look at other people, too. right?
Well, exactly how has Robert been able to send women money while living mainly on Social Security? A former roommate of Robert's will shed some light on that. We'll be right back.
Robert needs to understand, you are acting crazy. You are too smart to be acting this dumb.
And later, date of birth 12/8/79. Over here, the birth date is 12/8/87.
I recognize it right away.
Robert is very desperate. He's talking to women that look like Kim Kardashian. These are some women that I personally couldn't even talk to or pick up, and I'm not a bad looking guy. One day he was telling me about a lady who he had just met online who had got stuck in Honduras. Later that day he was telling that same girl that he loved her, how he wanted to give her a family, and she was saying that she wasn't able to get home, she wasn't able to get a flight or a ticket or anything like that because she didn't have the local currency. So Robert sent her $3,000. Robert needs to understand, you are acting crazy. You are too smart to be acting this dumb.
I want to introduce Robert's former roommate, Jill's son, Julian. He says after living with Robert for several months, he does not believe any of his girlfriends are real. So Julian, thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. It's been very clear in our conversations with you that you have his best interest at heart. What did you see when you were living together?
At first, really, it wasn't something that I was like, oh, this is an issue. And then just watching him, his daily habits are constantly on the computer. It was that, or he would walk, and he'd be like, oh, I'm gonna go walk. And I'd be like, okay, where are you going? And he'd be like, I'm going to Walmart. I was like, oh, he's going to send somebody else money. So it started to be an issue because, Robert will neglect himself to talk to these women. He really won't listen to reason. It's like he wants it to be real so bad that no matter what happens to disprove it, he's still gonna be like, yeah, it's true.
I think you're exactly right, but it goes on. There's another woman. The fourth woman Robert is talking to is Rosalind Randy. Here's what we know about her. Date of birth, 3/14/84, Minneapolis. 35 years old, currently living in Ghana. Formerly lived in Sweden with a grandmother. U.S. passport. Robert admits it was forged, but says it isn't concerning. Both parents died 3 years ago. 2008 to 2012, attended Roosevelt High School in Minneapolis. 2012, worked as a lab tech in Sweden, worked as a midwife in Ghana. In 2015, worked as a vaccination project supervisor in Ghana. April 2016, received nursing degree in Ghana. Owns a clothing shop in Ghana, has $16,000 in gold bars, and you sent her about $5,000?
Related to the gold, yeah.
Related to the gold, but you never got the gold?
No, she got arrested before that happened.
Is this the same one that I know, Bob? That you had checked out on their address in Ghana by someone who was in Ghana, and it was some kind of government enclosure?
Let's ask Dr. Phil. He asked the questions, not you.
Well, here's a photo.
You're way off base, and I don't want to get back and forth between them.
Here's a photo of Rosalind Randy, and we had to blur her face here and cover up some other things. And we did find out things about Rosalind Randy. First is that she doesn't exist. There is no Rosalinda Randy or Rose Randy with a date of birth of 3/14/84 in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and they do keep records up there, unlike the UK. No one by this name, Rosalinda Randy, Rose Randy, attended Roosevelt High School in Minneapolis. We checked between the years of 08 and 12, which she said, nobody went to the school by that name.
That's what I found out too, actually.
And so we checked this IGIL camp is not located in Sweden. There are two locations, the Netherlands and Morrisville, North Carolina, and nobody by that name ever attended these locations in the Netherlands or North Carolina. So she never went there. It just didn't happen. There's no such person.
Okay.
There's one person in Robert's self-professed pool who he sent $4,000 to and has been talking to for 2 years without any substantive contact. That's about to change when we come back. Does that answer your question about whether
Yes.
she's real or not?
How could it not?
I don't know. I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop.
On a new podcast episode of Fill in the Blanks.
You've had to overcome really difficult things in your life.
Best-selling author and founder of Magnify Your Message, Cheryl Hunter.
What would be your advice to somebody violated the way you were violated?
Speak to people. Suffering grows in silence, and when we can shine the light on it, it has no place to continue to fester.
I believe monsters live in the dark, and when you turn the light on, it's like, oh.
Fill in the Blanks. Available now on Apple Podcasts and Stitcher.
This is Wendy. She's also a fashion designer, although I never really got close to her from the point of view of romance. I continue to talk to her right up till now. We worked out an agreement about having to help her with her inheritance. She has an inheritance of $5 million. Probably gave her close to $4,000. I have not received any money back.
Now, here's what we know, or at least has been represented about Wendy. Date of birth unknown, age 30 to 35, formerly lived in San Francisco, currently lives with friends somewhere in California. Occupation, freelance fashion designer, right?
More or less.
Attorney, Arnold Pittenger. Now, Arnold Pittenger controls Wendy's $5 million inheritance. Robert has spent $4,000 approximately corresponding online across the last 2 years, and this is to help her get this
correct
inheritance
Yes.
freed up.
Yes.
Here's a photo of Wendy Rodriguez. This is Wendy, very attractive young woman, obviously. And this Arnold Pittenger alleged driver's license. Again, this is the attorney that's helping with this, right?
Yeah.
You notice that he signed over the top of somebody else's signature down here,
Yes.
which is a bit of a problem. You notice that there's a seal which goes over the top of the picture, and while we've had to blur this, there's no seal that goes over the top of it. You notice there's also a birth date that goes on top of the picture, and that's not on top of the picture over here, so that's a problem. Here he's got date of birth 12/8/79. Over here, the birth date is 12/8/87. So the birth date isn't even the same when you go from here just to over here. It's not even the same. They didn't even go to the trouble to put it the same on the same document.
Yeah, it was very poor. I recognize it right away.
Well, first off, there's no Arnold Pittenger in California or the U.S. with a date of birth that matches the driver's license, either date, actually. No Arnold Pittenger practices law in California. Mm-hmm. This is a made-up entity. He doesn't exist, not as a lawyer or anything else. Robert says he's looking forward to meeting Wendy Rodriguez. We looked everywhere for Wendy, and we found an answer very close by. Take a look.
Hi, Dr. Phil. My name is Sierra Rogers. I live in Los Angeles, and I'm the founder, CEO, and designer of Babes and Felines. Hi, Robert. Obviously, I'm not Wendy Rodriguez. I'm sorry that someone fooled you into thinking that. What I would suggest in the future before sending gifts or falling in love with someone, maybe FaceTime or meet up with them in person. But it's nice to meet you.
Does that answer your question about whether
Yes.
she's real or not?
Well, yes, sure. How could it not?
I don't know. I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. So how did Robert, an intelligent man with a PhD, fall for all of these scammers? I have some thoughts as to why, and I want to chat with Jill about this when we come back. Jill, why did you write in to begin with?
When Robert contacted me over the summer last year and I found out he was sleeping behind buildings, I felt it was my responsibility to go big or go home, one last chance to get him some help, because I didn't want to get a call that he was another body found out, laying behind a building somewhere.
I'll tell you what I think is going on.
All right.
I think very much, I think you're in love with the idea of being in love. I think you live in this fantasy world of, this is going to be great, and you're so tunnel visioned on what that would be like that you ignore all the warning signs along the way because you want that to happen so badly.
Why don't you just use an app like Tinder or Match or OkCupid? There's a lot of dating apps that are practical. They're like, hey, we'll meet up here in this physical place, not, hey, I'm in Africa, by the way, send me $1,000 and then we'll link up.
Reality never lives up to fantasy. And if you're in love with a multi-millionaire in Ghana, then you can live in that fantasy world a long time. If there is a 25, 35-year-old multi-millionaire gorgeous girl out there, she ain't looking for you and me. She's looking for somebody her age, somebody to share her life with that she has something in common with. She ain't looking for us.
Something about generalities is that they are good. They're even good most of the time. But you would know they're not good all the time, right?
But why are you looking for the 10%?
I bet they're good enough of the time to cover your situation.
Well, okay, perhaps, but we're in an area of subject that itself could be whole shows. You realize that, of course. I mean, we're getting into all kinds of things here, and there's no time for me to respond to it. It probably wouldn't go over well in sound bites. It's good things to talk about. It's good to raise them.
Well, that's very condescending to say, but the point is, I'm just trying to tell you that you're, as your ex-wife points out, fishing in a pond that is a multi-billion-dollar scam pool.
And I said that myself,
and
actually, didn't I?
You're going to continue to do one of two things. If you really don't want to get into a relationship, you just want to live in the fantasy or hope of what could be, then that's the price of the ticket. You understand what I'm telling you?
Well, I understand that you have my interest at heart, and that's good enough.
Yeah, you're being used.
Okay.
He told me I would rather die with my boots on, so to speak, go out in a blaze of glory, and it's like I'd rather be homeless every week and buy that lottery ticket, and maybe one day I hit the numbers, and if I don't, then I died trying. And that's his mentality towards it.
No, that's true.
But I told him, you're going to never find love, and you're always going to be homeless if you don't change something.
You wanted my opinion about these 5 women.
Right.
I've given it to you. I think they're all identity theft scams, and I hope you'll unplug from all 5 of them.
I will.
You've been sitting here telling me about how $8,000, $4,000, $3,000, all that money. I have spent the last 4 years working myself crazy.
I know.
In order to be able to live.
I know.
I've done a pretty good job of it.
You have.
And you have said that you're doing this for me.
Partly,
so
yes.
that you can pay me back.
Correct.
Well, these women have seen your $8,000, your $4,000, your $10,000, your $19,000, and I haven't. And you are living on twice the Social Security income that I get, and when I have to stop working, and I'm already 72, when I have to stop working, my income is $900-some a month, according to whatever the Social Security determines at the time.
I know that.
You can't live on that.
I know.
And I have asked you time and time again to send me a few $100, $200, $300 a month out of that larger income that you have, even though I have an income from working, so that I can put that in the bank and have that to help make my life livable when I have to stop working. I haven't seen that. You've promised before, you've said you were going to do it, and I'm still facing that $900 future. I don't have a home. I have an apartment. We used to have homes. I put things up on the wall, but they have to come back down again. And that's the way the rest of my life is going to be.
Can I add something here?
No.
Just lay it out. Just to lay it out.
No. No, you've talked the entire time, and it's her turn. And your point is, whatever he spent, whether it's $30,000, $50,000, $100,000, would make a huge difference in your life.
It would.
If that had gone to you instead of being...
And that's money he can't recover either.
Right. Instead of going off to some scammer, if $50,000 was in your account, all of a sudden it would make a huge difference.
It would make a huge difference in my future. If you're going to spend over $1,000 a month sending women money, send some of it to this woman, send some of it to that woman right there.
Well, what you're saying is you just want the dignity of being warm, dry, and safe in the same place as your life goes on, instead of bouncing around and wondering where you're going to be next month. And I think that's very reasonable. You didn't have to come here today, but you did, and I hope you're better for it.
Yes.
I think so. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. If you believe that you've been a victim of an internet scam, you can go to the FBI's special website, ic3.gov. And if one of my viewers wanted to contact us and set up a GoFundMe page for this woman, I would not be upset about that. I would certainly contribute to it. So I'll see what you, the viewers, do about this. We'll see you next time.
We ran out of time and the show ended, so we're going to bring back Jeremy so that you guys can talk. And
you're going to bring her in here?
Do you...
No, I'm not doing that. I'm done. No.
Apologize?
I'm not going to do it. That's the answer.
You don't want to say anything to Jeremy at all?
I said it to her already.
I just want you to feel like you spoke your piece with her. So I'm happy to bring her in and you can tell her.
No, I'm not going to do that with her. I was married to this woman for 40 years, and I kind of know how that will go, and I don't need any more. That's it.
Are you sure?
Oh, I'm sure.
Okay. I just talked to Robert. I said you want to apologize, asked him a few times. Says he doesn't want to apologize, so...
Well, that's Robert.
You don't think he'll change after this?
No, I don't. He's not accepting the fact that everything he's doing is wrong. Thank you, Dr. Phil. I particularly appreciate that you really stood up to his bulliness. I thank you for allowing us to take this chance on saving Robert's life and his well-being.